everybody, Coach Brandon Krause here, and today we're going to be going over your power punches, all right? So first, let's start with a definition. What is a power punch? A power punch is any punch you throw other than the jab. The jab, as we've gone over previously, you step in, you snap your straight lead hand out as much as you can, and you rotate your fist, creating the power. And you do not put your hips into any type of rotational position to create that power, and that's why the jab is delineated from the rest of these shots. But your power punches, on the other hand, all the power shots I'm about to show you now have some sort of hip rotation, and this allows your body weight to be put into the shots and make them significantly stronger, okay? So the first power punch that I like to go over with my people at the gym is the straight right hand, okay? Your straight rear hand, depending on if you're a southpaw or not, okay? So we're in that boxing stance, we're on the balls of our feet, our knees are bent, our elbows are in, hands is up, chin is down. Our weight is evenly distributed. And like I've told you, the punch is going to start the same way that all leading attacks start, with an initial step in with your front foot. That is a multi-purpose, that gains a multi-purposes goals, all right? You're going to gain a position. You're going to start committing to what you're going to do. You're going to start a little momentum that's traveling forward. After you've stepped in position, not at the same time, you're going to start to rotate your rear foot. Rear foot is going to point at ultimately where I want my fist to end up. After that happens, my hip is going to start to rotate. Hand is going to extend, clinch, fist turns over, and I land on my target with my fist parallel to the ground, but also like the jab, I continue following through without losing my balance, turning my fist over, thus transferring my energy to my opponent, coming back to my stance as quickly as I can. Step in, start the rotation of the hip, start the extension of the hand, start turning over your fist, hopefully make contact, follow through, coming back. As far as that hopefully making contact, guess what? Your opponent trains also. You're going to miss your opponent probably a lot more than you hit your opponent, so you want to punch in a way where your balance is not sacrificed if you were to happen to miss that shot, okay? So what isn't a power punch is a push in with your weight. What you are not trying to accomplish is throwing your weight forward and finding your energy pushing towards your opponent in this fashion where I'm almost falling into them to create the power. A power punch is you know, the terminology would be a differentiated rotation. You set your foot into position, and then there's the rotation of first your lower half leading to your upper half in a beautiful sequence, in a kinetic chain, as they say, all culminating out the end of your fist. And that way power is increased exponentially as it moves its way up your chain, all right? If I were to just step in and punch at the same time and lean into the shot, the power I start with will be the power I end with. And like I said before, if your opponent were to make you miss, you would fall forward and lose your balance very badly, all right? But if you do it in the proper technique, if you do it with balance, you're stepping in, you're rotating the hip, and even if you're punching in the thin air, I can throw a hard shot and my weight doesn't end up flying forward because that was never its goal in the first place. So let's really get that hammered into our head, that rotation of the hips, the manipulation of the hips is what's going to help you really increase your power without sacrificing any type of balance, and also allowing you to come back with the next shot, which is very important in boxing. So that straight right hand, to recap, we stepped into position, we rotate that rear foot, our weight does not come forward, our weight remains even, our weight remains in between our hips, we stay over our hips the whole time, and that right shoulder ends up in front of me. I've committed. This right shoulder is now protection against a potential left hook that can come on that side, and it's also my confirmation that I have put everything into the shot, that this shoulder is now in front of me. Hand is up here, maintaining the defense on that side. Weight is still even. I'm still behind this lead knee. I come back into my stance. Bang. The next power punch that we're going to go over, in my opinion, is the sexiest punch in boxing. We'll call it, that's the left hook, all right? Well, for you southpaws, that's your lead hook. Let's say that. Like a broken record, got to step into position. Weight remains even. You're still behind that lead knee. Once you've stepped into position, not at the same time, You're going to start the rotation of that fist. So now my goal is to throw my left fist in a circular motion. So my left foot is going to mimic that by pointing where I want that fist to eventually end up, this direction. And then guys, don't forget that this punch is called a hook. So let's remember what a hook looks like. It has this path, and that's the same path I want my fist to lead. I want to step into position and follow that hook path all the way through. This shoulder now becomes my protection because this hand is committed. Weight is still even. Foot has rotated. And notice that my fist has came all the way through and now is pointing behind me. That's the commitment I want to see out of the hook. It's all about that follow through. So I step in, throw that shot, pop, get back into my stance. But the cool thing about that follow through also is it puts you back into your stance with your weight. That right hand is much more of a committed shot and you're much more exposed afterward because of the position you end up in. The left hook, on the other hand, or all your lead hand shots, is going to put your weight back in much better position. So strategically, it's always a good idea to end with your lead hand, okay? So that left hook, we stepping in, rotate the fist, coming through, and I'm back in my stance. My eyes stay locked to what I want to hit. I don't want to let my head turn away with that shot. Another important cue that can help you at home is once I start to initiate this shot, 100% of the time, my knuckles are to be pointed at what I intend to hit. So if you watching at home or my target, an acceptable shot would see me step into position, start throwing, and land with my knuckles first, following through. An unacceptable shot would have my knuckles flaring out and pointing away from that moment arm that I'm creating, all right? I'm opening up big time here. I'm sacrificing a lot of power. And guess what? I'm going to get hit with a straight right hand before this left hook ever gets there. But if you do it properly, you're going to make this shot much more concise, and you're going to pick the most economic range of motion in order to land that punch. Moving on to the right hook, the hook with the rear hand. Same fundamentals of the straight right hand that we went over before. Need to step into position. First starts my foot, then comes my hip, then comes my fist. Foot is going to point where I want that shot to ultimately go. Hip is going to rotate, and then I'm going to follow with those knuckles, making contact and following through to make sure that I have a little bit of defense with this shoulder because I committed. Because I have to commit if I want to win a fight. Bang. Also, same concept is true that once I initiate this shot, knuckles 100% of the time should be pointed at what I intend to hit, and they should never flare outwards. So we have that straight right hand, we have the left hook, we have the right hook. We also have two punches that come from underneath your uppercuts, okay? Probably the hardest punch in your repertoire to master is going to be this left uppercut or your lead uppercut, but it's a very versatile shot, and it can become a terrific weapon once you learn how to master it, all right? So I'm in my stance, sounding like a broken record, I step into position. But here I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to step into position, and I'm going to rotate my hips in a way that puts me off to the left side. My balance hasn't changed. My balance was evenly distributed 50-50 when I was in my stance, and when I step in and set up for the left hook, that's still the case. I'm not leaning over to the left. I'm not favoring my left leg. What I'm doing is I'm rotating my hips so I'm off that left side, but my balance is still right down into the center of my hips. So I come, I prepare for this shot, I'm off to that left side, and then I throw my fist from underneath. It's still a rotation, so after this I need to continue following through if I want anything to be on the shot. So watch me from a profile, you'll get a better perspective of this. But I step in with that even weight, and then it comes back my direction. When I land, the shot is going up, thus an uppercut, but the way that I follow through and the way that I don't lose my balance is coming back into a rotation my direction, okay? So coming back. Biomechanically, I'd say that it's very similar to that left hook, where when I landed, after the follow through, everything was about coming into this position. Well, it's essentially the same shot, but the difference being my hips are off to that left side like we went over before, and now the position is here, okay? So I have the straight right hand, I got the left hook, I got the right hook. I got the left uppercut. Finally, we have the right uppercut, the uppercut with the rear hand. Like all your right hand punches, like all your punches, you need to step into position. My plan is for the right hand to come, so the first thing that needs to happen is my right foot needs to pivot and point where I want that fist to ultimately end up. What's that accomplishing? Well, like all the other shots, it's bringing my hips into play. It's adding a little bit of a rotation. That rotation happens, my fist comes underneath, knuckles first, not the side of your hand. Chin is down into the shoulder, weight is still even, and I need a little bit of a follow through. Guys, life is all about follow through, all right? So, I'm stepping in, bam, coming in, bam, bang, bang. This hand remains in the defensive position. When you commit to an attack, the hand that is not attacking, we're going to refer to that as your defensive hand. And do your best job, everybody, to always keep that in the defensive position. Not only are you going to be more protected, but when I start going over combination punching, when you start throwing multiple punches at your opponent, this is the most advantageous place to have your hands, okay? Reviewing all your power shots. Got that straight rear hand. I got the hook with the front hand. I got the hook with the rear hand. I got the uppercut with the front hand. I got the uppercut with the rear hand. I'm coming back. Why not the jab? We went over that before. That is the punch that does not allow your hips to rotate, so we're not going to deem that a power punch, all right? Also, I want to say that I'm showing you a very basic way to throw this. And any boxing fan that's watching at home, I'm sure you know that there's 1,001, if not more, variations to all these shots, and I encourage you to learn them all. But I think they all have this same root for those punches, all right? If you enjoyed today, I want you to like, I want you to subscribe. It's going to help us continue to grow the channel. And stay tuned. We're going to come back with another lesson. Like and subscribe.